My wife admitted, I swapped your sample at the IVF clinic with my ex's. I wanted the baby to have blue eyes. I replied, interesting choice. Then I called the clinic to report medical fraud and sent the recording to her ex's wife. When the clinic canceled her cycle and blacklisted her. I, 46M, am a forensic actuary. My entire career is built on assessing risk, analyzing probability, and detecting fraud for major insurance firms. I look at data, I find the anomaly, and I deny the claim. I don't rely on vibes or manifesting. I rely on cold, hard evidence. If the numbers don't add up, I don't sign the check. I've been married to Jessica, 36F, for 4 years. We met when I was 42. I was established, debt-free, and looking for a partner. Jessica was the picture of the perfect corporate wife, polished, articulate, ambitious, or so she seemed. Jessica is obsessed with aesthetics. Her Instagram is a beige-filtered shrine to perfection. Everything has to be just so. I tolerated it because she kept the house organized and, frankly, I enjoy a well-ordered life. I keep my finances separate, protected by a trust and a prenup standard for my profession, but I funded our lifestyle generously. We had been trying to conceive for 2 years. No luck. We moved to IVF. I'm the one funding this venture. My insurance covers a fraction, but we've paid about $45,000 out of pocket for premium cycles, genetic testing, and medications. I viewed it as an investment in our legacy. I wanted a child to teach, to raise, to leave my estate to. Jessica, I suspect, wanted a prop to complete her family aesthetic. We were in the middle of our second cycle. The egg retrieval was done. We had 5 viable embryos on ice. The transfer was scheduled for next week. Last Friday night, we were celebrating the good news regarding the embryo quality. Jessica had a bit too much wine. She gets loose-lipped when she drinks, her filter dissolving with every glass of expensive Pinot Grigio. We were sitting on the patio, the fire pit going, and she was scrolling through her phone, looking at baby photos on Pinterest. I'm just so relieved, she slurred slightly, smiling at her screen. It's gonna be perfect. Blue eyes. Definitely blue eyes. Like that model baby. I paused. I have dark brown eyes. Jessica has hazel eyes. Genetics are tricky. Recessive genes exist, but definitely blue seemed like a weird thing to be statistically certain about. Jess, I said, swirling my whiskey. Neither of us has blue eyes. It's statistically unlikely. Possible, but low probability. She giggled. A dark, conspiratorial giggle. She leaned over and tapped my knee, her eyes glinting with a secret. I know we don't, but Chad does. Chad, her ex-boyfriend from college. The one that got away. The guy who is currently married with 3 kids and lives 2 towns over. A man who peaked in college and works as a personal trainer. My blood ran cold. I didn't react. In my line of work, when you see a discrepancy in the data, you don't scream. You investigate. You let the other party keep talking until they hang themselves. What do you mean, Jess? I asked, keeping my voice level, acting like I was amused. What does Chad have to do with our embryos? She looked at me, eyes glassy, clearly thinking I was in on the joke, or simply too drunk to care about the implications. The sample, silly, she whispered, putting a finger to her lips. Remember when you produced at home last month, because you were too busy with the merger to go to the clinic that morning? I remembered. I had a board meeting. I produced the sample at 6 a.m., put it in the sterile cup, signed the label, sealed the biobag, and handed it to her to drive to the clinic. It's a standard procedure if you get it there within an hour. I remember, I said. Well, she smirked. I made a pit stop. Chad met me at the Starbucks halfway. He gave me his contribution. I swapped them in the bathroom. I put your label on his cup. And voila, blue eyes, perfect genetics. No offense, babe, but your family has that nose. Chad is aesthetic. She sat back, looking proud of herself, like she had just hacked the system. I stared at her. I felt a physical blow to my chest, like a hollow-point bullet impacting a vest. It didn't penetrate immediately, but the shockwave was massive. She had discarded my biological material. She had committed medical fraud. She had engaged her ex-lover to father a child she expected me to raise, pay for, and leave my inheritance to. She planned to deceive me for the next 18 years, letting me raise another man's child, all because she wanted blue eyes for her Instagram photos. Interesting choice, I said. My voice was monotone. Right? She sighed. It's better this way. You're the dad, obviously. You're the one paying. You're the husband, but the baby needs to be cute. You understand, it's for the gram. I understand perfectly, I said. I stood up. I'm going to get some water. I walked into the kitchen. I didn't get water. I pulled out my phone. I opened the voice memo app. I checked the battery. 40%. Plenty. I walked back out. Jess, I said, sitting down. Just so I'm clear for the plan, you flushed my sample? Down the toilet at Starbucks? She laughed. Bye-bye swimmers. And Chad just agreed to this? He knows? Oh, he thinks it's hilarious. He signed a donor waiver I printed off the internet just in case, but he knows you're raising it. He just wanted to help me out. He knows how much I care about appearances. Plus, he owes me a favor. And the clinic? They think it's mine? Of course. They didn't check ID on the cup content, Mike. They just took the bag from me. I signed the drop-off form. Easy peasy. Got it, I said. Blue eyes. Smart. I stopped the recording. I'm tired, I said. I'm going to bed. She stayed up to finish the bottle. I went to the guest room, locked the door, and went to work. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I calculated. Phase 1, the nuclear option. I spent the next 4 hours building the case file. Step 1, the clinic liability. It was 11 p.m., but I drafted an urgent legal notice to the clinic director, the head doctor, and their legal compliance department. Subject, urgent. Medical fraud. Chain of custody failure. Patient. My wife, Jessica, admitted to me tonight that the sperm sample provided on date was not mine. She admitted to swapping my sample with a third party's, her ex-boyfriend, without my consent. Furthermore, she stated that your staff accepted the biological sample from her without verifying the donor's identity or ensuring the chain of custody, which is a gross violation of medical protocols and HIPAA standards. I am the policyholder. I do not consent to the transfer of these embryos. I demand an immediate halt to all procedures. I am attaching a voice recording of her confession. If any transfer occurs, I will sue this clinic for medical malpractice, paternity fraud, and gross negligence. I attached the audio file. Step 2. The asset protection. I logged into our accounts. Because of my profession, I keep my primary assets in a revocable trust that Jessica cannot touch. However, we had a joint checking account for household expenses that currently held about $40,000. My bonus I deposited last week for a planned renovation. I transferred 100% of those funds back to my trust account. I canceled the supplementary Amex Platinum card she carries. I removed her access to the Tesla app. The car is leased in my company's name. Step 3. The X. I knew Chad. I knew Chad's wife, Karen. Karen is a terrifying woman. She is a litigation attorney for a pharmaceutical company. She eats fraud for breakfast. I found her email on the neighborhood directory. Subject, Chad's donation. Body, Karen. I think you should know that Chad provided a sperm sample to my wife Jessica, on date, to be used in our IVF cycle without my knowledge. Jessica admitted this to me tonight. They met at the Starbucks on Main Street to make the swap. I have canceled the cycle and reported the fraud, but I thought you should know your husband is handing out genetic material to his ex-girlfriends behind your back. Recording attached. I hit send. Step 4. The exit. I packed a bag. I took my passport, my birth certificate, the hard drives with my tax returns, and my grandfather's watch. I walked out of the house at 3 a.m. Jessica was passed out on the patio lounger, her phone still glowing in her hand. I stepped over her empty wine bottle and left. Update 1. The morning after. I stayed at a hotel downtown. At 8:05 a.m., my phone exploded. First, the clinic. The clinic director called me personally. She sounded absolutely terrified. Mr. Name, we received your email. We have immediately quarantined the embryos. We are launching an internal investigation. We have canceled Mrs. Name's upcoming transfer. We are flagging her file. I want a full refund, I said calmly. For the retrieval, the fertilization, and the meds. $45,000, wired to my account by Friday. Sir, we typically don't refund for services rendered. You accepted a biological sample that broke the chain of custody. I cut her off. You failed to verify the donor ID. You created embryos with fraudulent genetic material because your intake nurse was lazy. If I don't have that wire by Friday, my next call is to the state medical board and the local news. Imagine the headlines. Clinic implants stranger sperm because they didn't check ID. Silence. I will speak to accounting, she whispered. At 9 a.m., Jessica called. I didn't answer. She called again and again. 22 times in 15 minutes. Then came the text. The clinic just called me. They canceled the transfer. They said there's a legal hold. They said I'm banned from the premises. Mike, what did you do? I replied with one file, the voice recording of her confession. Then I typed, I assessed the risk. The policy is voided due to fraud. I've filed for divorce. My lawyer will be in touch regarding your eviction. Then, the best part. At 10:30 a.m., I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Karen. Thank you for the information. Chad is currently crying in the kitchen. I have listened to the recording. If you need a witness for your divorce proceedings regarding the adultery fraud, I am available. Also, I hope you destroyed her life. I'm about to destroy his. Chad wasn't just helping out. Turns out Chad and Jessica had been texting for months. The sample swap was just the tip of the iceberg. Karen found the texts on his phone after I emailed her. They were sexting about making a beautiful baby and how I was just the wallet who would pay for it. Update 2. The meltdown and the eviction. I didn't go home for 3 days. I sent a process server to the house to serve Jessica with divorce papers. I cited adultery and attempted paternity fraud. She refused to leave the house. She barricaded herself in. My lawyer, Helen, advised me to play hardball. The house is in your trust, Helen said. She has no lease. She's a guest. But because she's your wife, we have to be careful about constructive eviction. However, we can cut the non-essentials. I cut the internet. I cut the cable. I canceled the landscaping service. I canceled the pool heating. I canceled the grocery delivery service. And crucially, I sent a formal notice to quit, giving her 30 days to vacate per state law for a tenant at will. Jessica finally broke silence via email, since I blocked her number. Email subject, you are ruining my life. Body, you are a psychopath. It was just a sperm sample. You were going to be the dad on the birth certificate. I did this for US. You know how much appearances matter to my job. She's a lifestyle consultant. You destroyed Chad's marriage too. Karen kicked him out and she's taking him for everything. How could you be so petty over eye color? You need to fix this with the clinic. They blacklisted me. They said I can't seek treatment there ever again. They put me on a do not treat list shared with other clinics. I forwarded the email to Helen. Add this to the evidence pile. The clinic didn't just blacklist her. They reported the incident to the Regional Fertility Board as attempted gamete fraud. Jessica is now flagged in the national system. No reputable clinic within 500 miles will touch her. She tried to curate a baby and ended up sterilized by the bureaucracy. Update 3. The showdown. I returned to the house on day 5 with a police escort, civil standby, to retrieve the rest of my belongings and to formally document her presence for the eviction hearing. Jessica was there. She looked like a wreck. The perfect aesthetic was gone. She was wearing stained sweatpants, no makeup, hair in a messy bun, eyes puffy from crying. Mike, she sobbed, rushing towards me. The officer stepped in between us. Mike, please, I'm sorry. I was drunk. It was a stupid idea, but we can fix it. We can use your sample. I still want to have your baby. I'll do anything. You don't want my baby, Jessica, I said, stepping back, looking at her with the same detachment I look at a failed spreadsheet. You made that very clear. You want a prop, and you were willing to lie to me every single day for the next 50 years to get it. But I love you, she screamed, falling to her knees. A theatrical performance for the officer. You tried to trick me into raising your ex-boyfriend's child, I said coldly. That's not love. That's a cuckoo bird strategy. And I'm not a bird. I'm the guy who owns the nest. What am I supposed to do? She wailed. I have no money. You drained the accounts. I took my money, I corrected. Per the prenuptial agreement, Article 5, Section 2, separate property remains separate. You have your own account, the one you use for your consulting business. Use that. There's only $400 in there, she admitted, sobbing into the carpet. That sounds like a liquidity crisis, I said. I suggest you liquidate some assets. Maybe sell those Birkin bags I bought you. Oh wait, those are gifts. You can keep them. Good luck on eBay. I walked past her. I grabbed my golf clubs, my humidor, and the expensive espresso machine she never learned how to use. As I walked out, she shouted, "You're gonna die alone, Mike. You're a cold, heartless robot. Chad was twice the man you are." Chad is currently homeless, I said, loading the espresso machine into my truck. So I like my odds. Update 4. The Flying Monkeys and the Refund. Jessica's mother Linda called me. Michael, surely this is a misunderstanding. Jessica is hysterical. She says you accused her of switching samples? That's impossible. Jessica is a good girl. She would never. She admitted it on tape, Linda, I said. And she did it with Chad. You remember Chad? The guy she cheated on her college boyfriend with? The guy you said was trash? Well, Linda stammered. Even if she did, isn't divorce extreme? She wanted a beautiful grandchild for us. Is that a crime? Think of the baby. There is no baby, Linda. The embryos were destroyed. It was fraud, breach of contract, and morally repugnant. Your daughter is a liar. Goodbye. I blocked Linda. Then her friends started sliding into my DMs. You're an insecure manlet who can't handle a woman taking charge of her reproductive destiny. So what if it's Chad's sperm? DNA doesn't make a father, love does. You failed the test. I didn't argue. I didn't engage. I screenshotted every message. I sent them to Karen, Chad's wife. Why? Because these friends were also friends with Chad, and Karen was on a warpath. Karen replied, "Thanks, Mike. I see Sarah and Jen knew about the affair. I'll be sure to forward these to their husbands. Let's see how secure they feel." 2 days later, I heard through the grapevine that Sarah's husband moved into a hotel. Karen is efficient. I like her. The clinic wired me $45,000 on Friday. Included was a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, asking me not to discuss the specific clinic name publicly. I signed it. I don't care about the clinic, I care about the money. Jessica demanded half of that refund. It's marital assets, her lawyer, a cheap one she hired, argued. No, Helen countered. Mike paid for it from the trust account, premarital funds. We have the wire trace. And since the procedure was canceled due to her criminal fraud, she is not entitled to the refund. In fact, we are suing her for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Update 5. The desperation move. We went to mediation 2 months later. Jessica showed up alone. Her lawyer had fired her because her retainer check bounced. She looked small, defeated. She had been staying in a cheap motel since the eviction finalized. Mike, she whispered across the table. I have news, big news. I looked at Helen, my lawyer. She rolled her eyes. I'm pregnant, Jessica said, placing a hand on her stomach. I froze. What? I tested yesterday. It's yours. It must have happened right before you left. Please, Mike, this is our second chance. I pulled out my phone. I opened my calendar. Jessica, I said. We haven't been intimate in 3 months. Before the retrieval, you claimed you were too bloated from the hormones. We slept in separate rooms. She turned pale. No. That night, the night of the dinner party. I was in Chicago for the actuarial conference that night, I said. I have the flight receipts. I have the hotel folio. I was 800 miles away. She stammered. She started to sweat. Who is it? I asked. Is it Chad? Silence. You slept with Chad, I said. After I kicked you out, when you were desperate? She looked down, tears streaming. I was lonely. I thought if I got pregnant, maybe he would leave Karen. Maybe he would take care of me since you abandoned me. So let me get this straight, I said, my voice dripping with disdain. You tried to trick me with Chad's sperm via IVF. I caught you. Then, in a panic, you slept with Chad naturally to try and trap him. And now you're trying to pass that baby off as mine? I need help, she wailed. I have nowhere to go. Karen took all of Chad's money. He's broke. He's living in his car. Mediation is over, I told the mediator. She is pregnant with another man's child. I want an immediate bifurcation of marital status. I am not staying married to this mess for 1 more second. Final update, 6 months later. The divorce was finalized last week. Because of the infidelity, proven by the pregnancy timeline and the recording, and the ironclad prenup, I kept everything. The house, mine. The retirement, mine. The savings, mine. The refund, mine. Jessica got her car, which she can't afford the lease payments on, so she surrendered it last week, and her clothes. She walked away with $0. She's currently living in a 1-bedroom apartment with her mother, Linda, who had to move in to help pay the rent because Jessica can't find a consulting gig. Her reputation in town is destroyed. She is roughly 6 months pregnant. It's a boy. It is confirmed to be Chad's. Chad is working at a budget gym, living in a motel room. Karen took their house, their kids, and the dog. She cleaned him out completely. Chad wants nothing to do with Jessica or the baby. He calls Jessica the mistake that ruined my life. Jessica is now facing single motherhood with no job, no husband, a baby daddy who hates her, and a mother who constantly reminds her she had it all and blew it. The IVF clinic used her case as a case study for new security protocols. They now require photo ID and a fingerprint scan for every sample drop-off. They call it the Jessica protocol. She is famous, just not in the way she wanted. As for me, I'm dating a woman named Elena. She's a pediatrician. We met at a coffee shop, not Starbucks. On our third date, I told her the story. She stared at me, horrified. She did what, for eye color? Yep, I said. That's medically insane, Elena said, and sociopathic. Exactly. Elena has brown eyes. I think they're beautiful. We're taking it slow. No rush, no props, just reality. I drove by my old house the other day. I decided to sell it. Too many bad memories. A young couple bought it cash. I saw them painting the nursery yellow. I didn't feel sad. I felt relieved. I dodged a bullet. Actually, I dodged a nuclear missile. Jessica wanted a baby with blue eyes. She got one. But she lost the lifestyle, the husband, the reputation, and the future she tried to manipulate. She forgot the most basic rule of risk assessment. The higher the fraud, the harder the fall. TLDR, wife admitted to swapping my sperm sample with her exes during IVF because she wanted blue eyes. I recorded her, reported her to the clinic for negligence, got a refund, and told her ex's wife. Clinic banned her, ex's wife divorced him, and I left her with nothing thanks to a prenup. She is now pregnant with ex's baby from a post-breakup panic hookup and living in poverty.